Okay, so if you've ever spent any time in the manufacturing module in Microsoft Dynamics NAV or Business Central, I bet you've run into this. It's a real head scratcher. You create a production order, it gets a number, and then poof, the number just changes. What is going on? Well, today we're going to dive into this little puzzle and finally get it solved.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll talk about the puzzle itself. Then we'll look at the default setup that's causing all the confusion. After that, we'll get to the good part, the expert's recommended fix. We'll also cover a really critical exception you need to know about. And finally, we'll help you figure out what's the right move for your setup. All right, let's jump right in with the problem. This is a classic, it trips up so many users. But the good news is, once you see what's actually happening behind the scenes, it's a really easy fix.
I mean, this is the big question, right? You go in, you create a firm planned production order, and it gets a number. Awesome. But then you release it, and suddenly, bam, it has a totally different number. It feels broken, like a bug. But believe it or not, it's actually designed to do that. It's a feature, just a super confusing one.
So, where on earth does this weird behavior come from? Well, it all goes back to the default setup. The one you'd find in any standard demo company, like Cronus. It's literally configured this way right out of the box.
And here it is, the root of the problem. The system, by default, uses different number series for different production statuses. So firm planned orders pull from one set of numbers, and released orders pull from a completely separate set. This means every single time the status changes, the system just reaches in and grabs a brand new number. It's like it gives the same order a whole new identity mid-process. And this, my friends, is where the chaos starts. Just imagine, your order begins its life as FP1001. Simple enough. But then, when you're ready for production and you flip that status to released, the system just rebrands it as RL2001. The original number? It's just gone. I mean, how are you even supposed to track an order that has an identity crisis? The result is exactly what you'd expect. Just total confusion. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, this is completely ridiculous, guess what? You are not alone, not by a long shot. Check out this quote from Olaf Semren, a dynamics expert who's been in this game for over 2 decades. He basically says he's never understood why it's set up this way, and more importantly, he's never met a single customer who actually wants it to work this way. That's all the validation we need, right? We're not crazy for thinking this is weird. Okay. Enough complaining about the problem. Let's talk about how to fix it. Because thankfully, there is a much more logical way to set things up, and it brings a whole world of clarity to your production process. So, what's the big secret? What does the expert recommend? Well, it honestly couldn't be simpler. You just use the same number series for all of the production order statuses. That's it. That's the whole fix. One number series to rule them all. And let me tell you, the difference this makes, it is night and day. In the setup, your order starts as Pro 5001, and when you release it, it's, you guessed it, still Pro 5001. It keeps that exact same number all the way through the process. So the result isn't confusion, it's just clarity, pure and simple. I mean, the benefits here are just so obvious, right? You immediately get clarity, which means everyone is actually talking about the same order. You get consistency in your data, which makes tracking and reporting way easier. And maybe most importantly, you just get rid of a huge headache for everybody involved, from the people on the shop floor to the folks in the front office. You know, a really good way to think about this is to compare it to something you probably already do in another part of the system. Think about sales and purchase invoices. Most people set those up to use the same number series for both unposted and posted documents, right? That way, the final posted invoice has the exact same number as the drafted. Well, this is the exact same logic. We're just applying it to manufacturing. All right, now, just when you thought it was all figured out and perfectly simple, there's a catch. There is one really critical exception to this rule. It's a specific, real-world scenario where you might actually want to go back to using separate number series. So this point actually came from a comment on the original article by someone named John Michelle Fox. And it's a great one. What happens if you have a legal requirement, from the government, that says your posted documents have to be in a perfect chronological order, with no gaps? If you use a single number series, an order you create today might not get finished and posted until next week, and that could totally mess up your perfect sequence. And in that situation, yeah, you might need to keep things separate.
So this really breaks it down nicely. It's pretty simple. If you have a legal requirement for chronological posted documents, then you've got to use separate number series. No way around it. But if what you really care about is just consistency and making things easier to track, then using the same number series is definitely the right move.
Okay, so you've got all the info now. The question is, how do you make the right call for your business? Well, it really just boils down to a couple of simple steps.
Here's what you need to do. Step 1, and this is the most important one. Find out for sure if you have any legal requirements about chronological numbering. Step 2, take a look at your current manufacturing setup and see what it's actually doing right now. And step 3, unless you are legally required to do it the other way, make the switch. Go for the single number series and just choose clarity and consistency for your whole team. And that really brings us to the final question, the one I want you to walk away with. Take a hard look at your own system. Is your current numbering system actually creating clarity? Or is it just causing confusion and frustration? The great thing is, now you know not only why it's happening, but you also know exactly how to fix it.